Okay, so my name is DECosmic. This is going to be Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, New Game Devil Hunter difficulty as Lady and Trish. And in Special Edition, they introduced a few characters, namely 3, Lady, Trish, and Virgil. And Lady and Trish you play in the same playthrough. So we're going to go through like half the game with Lady, go through more of it with Trish, and then finish it off with Lady. I'm joined today by Time Thief, the second place runner for this category. Say hi, Time.
Hello, I will be your commentator for today.
So
Uh,
we're gonna have a good time shooting up some demons. Ugh.
it's
So
always the best time.
so I guess I don't have access to the big red button, so I guess I'm just gonna say time or something, or start time whenever for somebody. Froob, are you there?
Hi, yeah, you're good.
Okay. So I will count down from 3, and then we'll go. So 3, 2, 1. So getting into the first mission, these missions are not unique to Lady or Trish at all. They're rehashes of the campaign that Dante and Nero went through. So the first thing that we're going to actually do is fight Dante as a boss, but first we've got to go through a tutorial section that for some reason, even though I've turned off the tutorials for the game's still going to make me go through them. So first here, we're going to have to shoot Dante 5 times, and the game will register that even if Dante doesn't get knocked down from Lady's shotgun. Then it's really just going to be like some more tutorial stuff like jumping over bullets. So Time, if you want to talk a little bit about like what Lady has to offer in this game.
Alright, yeah. So, of the 5 player characters, Lady's interesting because she's the only character in the cast that isn't partially demon. So, her main moveset is gun-based, because as a human, she can't really go running around swinging swords and stuff. So she has 3 main weapons. The Kalina Ann, her rocket launcher that's named after her mother, her shotgun, and her pistols. The primary DPS we're going to be using in the speedrun is the shotgun because it has very high damage output and also a fairly decent rate of fire, especially later on when we get the ability to cancel her animations, which I'll explain that when we get to that.
Okay, so we're going to be coming up on the boss fight here, yeah. So I just got to do like this 3-hit combo, and then I basically have to loot Dante's knockdown animation off of the shotgun in order to kill him. So I'm just going to try and not take any damage here.
It's important that he doesn't take any damage and also that he breaks the benches in the church to get all of the red orbs, which are this game's currency, because that impacts his rating in the final end result of the mission. Doing this will allow him to get an S rank, which gives him Proud Souls. Proud Souls allow you to buy upgrades for your skills, and getting an S rank gives us just as much as we need to get the 2 skills we're going to want here, which are Speed, the upgrade that lets you run outside of combat, and Shotgun Charge Shot level 1, which increases our DPS even more.
And the shotgun, well, all the guns, I should say, have 3 levels of charge. We're really only going to be getting the ones for the shotgun because the shotgun still allows you to stay mobile while dealing damage, and you can actually cancel the knockback animations for it by jumping. So right here, you see like enemies getting knocked back, and I can actually cancel that by doing a jump shot off of the shotgun animation there. It also allows me to just still keep moving around. I don't have to sit there and just let the animation rock like the kickback. And so first here we're going to grab the Evil Legacy, which is going to allow us to grab these things called the Grim Grips. And we're going to be using those to do some more platforming later on in the game. This level introduces us to the enemies known as the Scarecrows, which look like those burlap sacks with party hats on that have blades attached to them. It's a very interesting enemy design, but we see a few different colors of those guys, but we're going to take them out kind of the same way. It's just going to be some shotgun play. And then we're going to actually go on to fight a boss called Burial, which is another one that I preferably don't want to get hit at, because that getting hit is slow. I should also note that Lady, as Ty mentioned earlier, since she's a human, she also doesn't have a Devil Trigger. And since she doesn't have a Devil Trigger, Capcom gave her an attack called the Burst Attack, which is where she throws a bunch of grenades out around herself. And it gives her not only a lot of damage and an AoE around her, but it also gives her a ton of invulnerability frames. And we're going to use those invulnerability frames during a few fights to clear out some people as well as prevent ourselves from taking damage. So, a lot of this is just like some walk and talk, so if you've got any like shilling that you need to do for Rube, now's a good time.
Certainly, I'd like to remind everybody that during ESA Together, the first 800 subs to ESA will be matched by a $2.50 donation from our sponsor, Hyper. We're currently at 484 sub points of 800, so we're still on track to meet it, so let's smash that goal and work our way to another emote slot that you can all use. Thank you all very much.
For sure. Alright, I think we got like a little bit more, so if you got anything else you gotta say, go for it.
Certainly. Well, if you've looked below the stream, you might see a picture of three of our wonderful volunteers in Eden wearing some of our awesome merch, and you could go to www.speedrunstore.com, which is an awesome URL, that's for sure, and you can get yourself some ESA merch of your own, including the amazing 2016 shirt, which some say we never had a map in 2016.
Nice. Alright, so, moving into the boss here. I already got hit. Those enemies decided to be real aggressive today, but I'm going to be able to shake it off, not a problem. So this is Burial, the Fire Demon. Basically, Lady has a pretty easy time against him compared to Nero, or... I don't want to say compared to Virgil, because Virgil has a pretty easy time with this guy, but she can stun lock Burial, which they can't really do. So here we go, then we're going to use the burst attack to get through his explosion. Timed it a little bit too early there. Alright, this is not a great fight right now. Wow, I can't believe that actually came out. This is like... Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, even though Cosmic has been hit, that doesn't mean too much for the overall run. Just losing the no damage bonus, it won't affect the buy list too much. It just means we'll have to get certain items, certain skills a little bit later than we normally would like to.
Yeah,
so this is still easily recoverable from.
Yeah. Alright, so next mission we're going to grab... These next few missions we're really just going to keep grabbing upgrades for the shotgun until we can have that maxed out. So we just got the flechette shot there. So once the shotgun gets up to shotgun level 3, you're really going to see a lot of damage coming out onto enemies. And I should note that there's only a few enemies in this game where you can't actually cancel the knockback of the shotgun when you're hitting them, and one of them is the frost that's coming up. For some reason, I guess just because of the way that those enemies work, you can't do anything to cancel their knockback with the shotgun from an air shotgun jump. But we're gonna have to take them out nonetheless. We might just have to chase them down a little bit. Once I get into this fight, I'm actually gonna be tilting the camera in like almost a 180 behind me in order to keep it off of the second frost that's gonna spawn in, so that it actually has to force itself back on screen in order to queue up an attack at me, and then, you know, I didn't get that anyway, but that's fine. But the idea there is that you pull it off screen so that it has to come back on screen in order to queue up an attack, because enemies in this game and in a lot of the other Devil May Cry games, they can't queue up an attack off screen, but they can attack you from off screen if they already have an attack queued up. Hopefully that's not too confusing of wording. I think I almost got myself in a tongue twister there.
It made sense to me.
Fair enough.
Alright.
So this first fight here, or the second fight I should say of the level, first fight with the Scarecrows in the level, we're going to actually see like how good the burst attack is. Even at base there, did a lot of damage just to those enemies in a small area. Allow her to clear those out. There is actually a skip here, but it's a really like finicky one, and it doesn't save a whole lot of time, so I don't really go for it much, and I'm certainly not going to go for it here. We're just going to go for the normal, you know,
It's definitely a lot easier to pull up the skip here as, say, Nero or Virgil. Lady has a hard time with some of the skips that they can do, but I think that just shows how it's interesting to play the different characters in this game.
Yeah, there's certain sections that Lady has to go through that Nero or Virgil really don't. Just because, number one, she doesn't have a lot of ways to maintain momentum across her jumps, and she doesn't have like a lot of ways to reset her height or a lot of verticality at all in her movement. Most of it's like, you know, like left and right or back and forth, or just mostly away because they wanted her to play at range, not really to get up in people's faces. Alrighty. That's right. So I should have mentioned the Frosts are the Ice Demons. They're making a return actually from DMC1. They're missing some of their attacks from DMC1, but they're still here. We're going to grab this Holy Water here, and Holy Water is actually going to play a huge part much later in the run once we get to Trish, and you'll see why. Trish, she likes her money, so to speak. Do you actually want to talk about the Angelos before we get to them, Todd?
I could.
Yeah, go for it.
I guess, like... So, like, what do you want me to say about them? They're a bit tougher than these enemies. They have more health. They also have a shield that you're going to see, which means that Cosmic can't attack them much from the front. He can still hit them from the front, but they will absorb the damage, and it'll do damage to the shield instead of the Angelo itself. So he has to break the shield, or he can just run behind them.
Yeah.
Because Cosmic's really great at taking things from the back, you know?
Don't say that.
Okay.
Wow. Alright, so anyway, the Angelos actually come in two variations. They come in both blue and gold. And the blue Angelos are the ones with spears there, and the gold Angelos actually have swords. And they form they have sort of like formations where if they are one gold and and two blues, I'm sorry, one gold and two blues, they'll actually have different attacks based on that. Fortunately, as Lady, we're going to be able to ignore that with the shotgun.
Yeah,
oh,
we
here's
don't
the
have to worry
gyros.
about the gold Angelos until much later. They show up, what, 4, 5 missions from now?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So I can go over what moves they have in the formations when we get to that. But here you see the wonderful Gyro Blades. It's the reason when I get to this mission I like to sing, you spin me right round, baby, right round. Because these things are interesting.
They're a weird sort of like puzzle mini game, yeah.
Yeah, this game has a lot of puzzle elements. I think that's kind of like a holdover some of the Devil May Cry games got from their Resident Evil legacy. But Gyro Blades basically are a puzzle that revolves around you hit these little spinny tops into obstacles to break them. And you can also break enemies, because what are enemies if not living obstacles?
It's true. Factual. What we're going to do here is the Gyro Blade trick. We're going to grab another Gyro Blade from the end of this room, and we're going to actually bring it to where this Gyro Blade here on the left was. And the Gyro Blade, we're just going to leave that one there because it's actually going to respawn once we come back to the room to fight the boss. So that's actually going to solve this puzzle with without the extra step there of having to bring both Gyro Blades back.
And you can just see those Scarecrows popping like water balloons filled with money as he rams the gyro into them. It's quite glorious if you're playing this on Legendary Dark Knight, the difficulty above this on New Game, which ramps up enemy spawns significantly, and it's just like a whole row of Scarecrows that are just being annihilated. It's quite glorious to watch.
It's definitely like Mushu levels of spawns at that point.
Yeah.
Good old Legendary Dark Knight.
For those of you who don't know, I am the world record holder for Lady Trish New Game Legendary Dark Knight. Also, I think the only person who runs New Game Legendary Dark Knight.
Possibly, yeah, I would say so. I quit the game for a little while over that category.
It's difficult. It's a lot of fun, but it's definitely something you have to take breaks from, because it's fun to watch all those enemies just get wrecked in front of you, but it's also... there's a lot of margin for error in a speedrun.
Yeah, for sure. Coming up, the boss that we're going to get into is called Bale, and he's a frog, or as Maxi Lopes likes to call him, Ice Pepe. So, he's got 2 succubi attached to his antennae, and we're going to have to take those out before we actually get to fight him. But Lady's got a very interesting way that she takes him down. She actually gets swallowed by him because his first attack, he'll always try to swallow you. And Lady wants to let him swallow her so that she can do a burst attack out of him to immediately stun him and break the ice crystals that are on his head. So this is going to take a second here in order to...
And it's actually interesting that this is the tactic Lady goes for, because for Nero and Virgil, when you're fighting this boss, you actually do try and get no damage for the orb bonus, but for Lady, it really just doesn't matter because it's just so much faster to do it like this and cycle the boss this way.
Yeah, completely consistent all the time.
And
That's
there we go.
You see there, like, already the level 3 shotgun's pumping out a ton of damage even on a boss. Kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. I don't know who decided that, but I'm glad they did.
Someone knew who the best waifu was.
Amen. Amen. Alright, let's see here. Can I remember the right skill? No, almost. Bayonet sting. Alright, cool.
I wrote it on my hand,
We
so
almost
you better
bought
not have forgotten it.
No, I got Bayonet Sting. We're good. We're out here. Bayonet Sting, what we grabbed there is Lady's version of like a downward spike with her weapon, her melee weapon. A lot of other characters refer to this as Helmbreak, or in Nero's case, Split. And we use it a lot to just traverse some sections a little bit faster that have us jumping onto platforms. So you'll see that in a little bit here once we grab a thing called the Wing Talisman.
And now, for anyone who's wondering what I have written on my hand, it's Don't Buy Scatter, which refers to the other move listed in the Kalina Ann moveset, which is her back input move, Scatter.
Yeah,
which she jumps backwards and throws a bunch of grenades. That does not help us with traversal, and it's also very slow.
Does like no damage too.
Yeah, it's an interesting move. It's one of the less useful in Lady's moveset, I'd say.
I agree, yeah. Unless you're trying to like get a launch, but we're not trying to do that. We're just trying to go fast.
I've seen people do some fun stuff with it in combo videos, but
Yeah.
there aren't many Lady combo vids, so...
Unfortunate.
And here you see what he's doing with the Bayonet Sting, just using it to jump down on the launchers.
This is another mission where like I'd prefer to not get hit, but there comes a point in this run where like the amount of damage that you take really doesn't matter. Here we're gonna use the burst attack to go through the iframes of those attacks there, as well as do a bunch of damage, gain a lot of style too off those enemies, and then kind of finish up this guy right here, and that's pretty much the mission.
I don't think we introduced those enemies, the Mephistos.
Oh yeah, you should explain those, yeah.
Yeah, those were the cloaked enemies you just saw flying around. They are little insectoid demons that have flying cloaks, and they also have an ability to phase through walls, which can be quite annoying at times, but they're pretty vulnerable to guns, which, unfortunately for them, that's Lady's specialty, so... They're also very low on HP once you get through their cloak.
Yeah.
So...
Oh yeah. Devil May Cry seems to have this infatuation as a series with enemies that can like no clip and just leave you just in the dust. Like, nope, you can't hurt me here.
Yes, in Devil May Cry 1 and 5, it's the Sin Scissors / Death Scissors / Sin and Death Scythes. A lot of variations on the same enemy in DMC 1. And then in DMC 3, you have the Fallen, which are fallen angel-looking creatures. And then, of course, there's Mephisto here. And a little big brother of theirs we're going to meet sometime later called Faust. I look forward to that one.
Oh boy. I would bother introducing these fish. They're called, what are they called? The Cutlass or something? Or the Cutlass here?
Yeah, they're the Cutlass. And the sword bird things are Gladiolus, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think that we're even going to see them outside of the Agnes fights, though, other than that. This dice game here, if you played this game casually, you probably think that this is random. It's not. So, the dice always goes in the same order, which is 1, 4, 2, 6, 3, 5, and it always appears at the top of the die. So, if you hit that with a melee move or Nero's Snatch, you'll be able to predict what is going to come out. So here, I might have hit that a little bit too late. We'll see. Yeah, I hit it a little bit too late. That's fine. But it's not going to cost as much time, and it's not going to require me to fight any enemies. It's just extra stuff there.
Yeah, let me go ahead and explain what each of the color on the board means.
Yeah.
So there's the 4 colors, the white, blue, yellow, and red. White is basically your free space. Landing on it does nothing, it just brings the dice back down to roll again. Yellow is the one we usually want because it connects to another yellow spot on the board and it will just bring you straight there. Blue gives you red orbs, so it gives you just a wonderful rain of money. Unfortunately, it's a little slow for the speedrun. And then red is the bad one because it forces you into a fight with an enemy. On higher difficulties, there's a 5th color, which is purple, which forces you into a boss fight with the frog. That's bad. That's a lot of time lost.
That is. Is it always the frog, or is it like a random boss? It's been a little while since I played those higher difficulties.
I've only ever seen the frog. It might be the other bosses, but I've never seen them. But yeah, if you get a purple square, it's basically a dead run. You're gonna have to reset. Luckily,
oh boy, here's the best boss ever.
Ah yes, the window.
The window, just an actual window. If you've played Devil May Cry 5, this is Nico's dad, Agnes, and he's hiding behind a window because he's a member of the Order of the Sword. He is not he's not approached this in his true form yet. So we're just gonna blast at him from the other side here and throw these little swords at him that he's summoning around the room while he tries to shoot electricity at us. There's really not a whole lot to explain in this fight. You just kind of throw the swords at Agnes, or at the window, I should say. And then once the fight's over, that's pretty much it. You don't really see any other fight like this in the game after that. Although it bears a very big resemblance to the Urizen fights that you see in DMC5. The next few fights are going to be they're going to be a lot of fights against the Angelos, and a lot of the optimal clears here are going to be trying to maintain optimal damage with the level 3 shotgun as per usual, but some well-placed burst attacks can really save you a lot of time as well. These guys right here, I should also note that although the shotgun does so much damage at level 3, it's usually not worth it for you to temper your DPS to charge it back up again after the charge has expired. Usually only like level 1 or 2 will get you through the rest of a fight. The initial burst of 3 is fine.
And now this is one of my favorite fights, not because of how it is on this difficulty, but how it is in Legendary Dark Knight. Because this room has so many Angelos in it on Legendary Dark Knight, but it also gives you white orbs, which refill your Devil Trigger. I assume because this is where Neuro gets his Devil Trigger in the story, and it was built with Neuro in mind. But it's so beautiful when you're playing it as Lady, because she can use her burst attack to just destroy, like, every Angelo around her, and they'll drop so many white orbs, you'll just instantly fill your meter back up, and you can just bomb the rest of them. It's quite fun.
It's glorious, yeah. A lot of the rest of this level is just a lot of running, so there's a little bit of downtime here in case anything needs to be said, anybody needs to cut in.
Certainly, thank you very much. I'd like to remind everybody that we've got a couple of incentives going on during the week, and you all know what game is very eerily similar to Devil May Cry 4? Celeste. Don't question it, because otherwise my segue doesn't work. But we have a bonus incentive at the very end of the marathon to change Celeste from any percent to true ending, and everybody loves Celeste. It's a great speedrun to watch. We're currently at $30 out of $250, so let's get those donations in.
Thank you for... This level coming up is called the Forest of Ruin, and we're going to actually fight the next boss, like the next big boss, in the run, which is Echidna. And Echidna has 4 different phases that she can go into. We want to try and skip all of them except her base form. And we're going to try and do that by, you guessed it, with level 3 shotgun. In order to aid us in that, though, we're going to be buying 3 purple orbs. And those increase the amount of Devil Trigger that we can carry at once. And that's going to allow us to throw even more grenades out and do even more damage to her, as well as stun. We're also going to grab this Hidden Vital Star here. And that's going to be for Trish later. You'll see. In addition to that, we're going to run up on this ledge and grab another holy water. This is one of the three free holy waters that we grab in the run. I should say it's the second, since we grabbed that other one on mission 3. So, let's see here. The enemies in this room, the enemies in this room are called the Chimera Assaults. And the Chimeras are enemies that are like, they're the blades that are on the current enemies you're seeing on screen. And they allow the enemy that they're latched onto to break out of your combo while you're hitting them. They can become quite a pain if you let them attach onto too many enemies, because then there's, you know, no way for you to do your combos. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. That's great. Excellent. I forgot I'm not Nero. Go ahead.
Correction, that was not the Chimera Assault, that was the Chimera Scarecrow.
That's the Chimera Scarecrow, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
The Chimera Assaults are the variation that's on the lizard creatures. If you played Devil May Cry 1, you'll recognize the Assaults as the Blades, and if you've played Resident Evil, such as the recently released Resident Evil 3 remake, you'll recognize them as being fairly similar to the Hunters. It's because they were originally the Hunters when Resident Evil 4 was Devil May Cry 1.
Makes sense. I always love like the little trivia that's locked into that game. There is another skip here too, but it can cost you from like a minute to even more, depending on how many like times it actually takes you to land it. Because if you don't land the skip here, you have to go down into the chasm below and do an extra fight, and then you're transported to the very beginning of this room to attempt it again. And those enemies that you saw there, the Mephistos, as Time mentioned earlier, they'll respawn. So here we're just going to kind of go for the safe version. There we go. Otherwise, you can skip that whole thing, but it's a little bit risky for a marathon. It's a little bit risky for a single segment. Like,
yeah, it's definitely a reset point if you mess that up.
Tried to stinger jump there. We're gonna also
here you
run.
can see.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna explain the chimeras. So here you see the chimera seeds not connect to the scarecrows, but they will attempt to lunge onto the scarecrows, and that will create the chimera scarecrows we saw earlier. So if you kill them before they can attach, it's a much easier fight.
Fortunately for Lady, it actually saves her a little bit of time on this fight. Dante and Nero have a really weird time with them because all of their damage is through their melee attacks. Lady can just kind of stand at afar and just be like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. This is probably the roughest gyro in the game because it tracks onto so many enemies at once. Wow, I got that first shot. Excellent.
I also believe that's the last gyro in the run, isn't it?
As far as I remember, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a chase sequence. Oh no, it's Mr. X? Nemesis? No, that's just Echidna, the she-viper. Not to be confused with Knuckles, the Echidna.
So do you want my little trivia on why Echidna is named that?
Why's that?
So she's actually named after a creature from Greek mythology who was the mother of all monsters, which represents how Echidna is the one who's spawning all of these chimera seeds.
Makes sense.
So yeah, and also in Greek mythology she was a she-viper or dragon. So that's why she's a snake. It's always interesting, because people never seem to understand that that's her name, so they always just make the Knuckles the Echidna joke. No, it's actually a mythology reference, like most of the demons in Devil May Cry.
Yeah, she, it makes sense because in her files there's actually, like, functions for her to summon more things rather than just, like, the random chimera that she summons every now and again. I think she was supposed to be able to summon more stuff, but probably due to budget stuff they didn't really go through with that. This mission is really just like a whole lot of... There's like one fight here, and then there's a whole lot of running, and then you fight probably one of my favorite bosses in the entire series. It's definitely the best boss in this game. Credo Angelo. He's essentially Nero's, you know, like foster brother, or, you know, whatever the relation to them would be, since they're both in the Order of the Sword. but he gets transformed into like an angel demon type looking thing, and he's really aggressive and he's really fun to fight. Unfortunately for him, ladies, got a couple barrels that have his name on it. So after we toss these assaults in the trash with the power of ballistics, we're gonna see that.
The assaults I mentioned earlier. They have a couple of little gimmicks, like they have shields on their arms, and they can also shoot their claws at you, so they have a ranged attack. But that doesn't really matter when you're a lady and you have a big shotgun that does a lot of damage.
She's got the gat.
And they got the blat.
Yeah. Alright, this puzzle here is sort of just fixed, sort of like the dice game. You have to run in the opposite direction that these shadows are facing. So if the shadow is facing that way, then we're going to run forward. If the shadow is facing to the left here, we're going to run to the right. And this is the same every time, so if you get this wrong, you just have to do additional fights, but once you do it a couple of times, you'll pretty much never forget it, and as long as you look at the visual cues.
I don't want to even think about how long I spent on that puzzle the first time I played this game.
I definitely spent a little while there too. It was like, because some of the what's it called, the little proverbs or whatever that are on those stone tablets are like very cryptic at times, and then it's like, oh, once you figure it out. This is the Order of the Sword Chapel, by the way. This is where we're gonna fight Credo. So he's got a bunch of different attacks. If you want to explain them, Time.
Okay, yeah. So here we have Credo. Here we are seeing his spear toss. It's an interesting attack. You can actually counter it with a melee attack, which will give you green orbs, which will replenish your health. Or if you're playing as Nero, you can use your Buster attack, and you can actually grab the spear out of the air and counter by throwing it back at Credo, which is a lot of fun. And then, wow, you're already done with him.
Yeah, I didn't expect that to go that well. He's really been a handful the last few runs that I've done. He's really liked to throw a lot of spears at me, but we didn't really get to see much of him. He's got some melee combos that he does and stuff, but wow, he went down like a sack of bricks.
Yes, and that's unfortunately the only time we're gonna see him, the best boss in the game, because we only get a single Credo fight.
Such a shame. Such a shame. Even there's the one at the end of the what's it called? One at the end of the game, and he's the only one that doesn't appear there. Such a shame.
Yeah.
We're gonna actually grab for the abilities here. We're gonna grab Enemy Step, which allows us to jump off enemies and cancel our air attack animations, which is gonna increase our DPS for the shotgun on larger enemies. And we're also going to grab Wire Snatch 1 and 2, which is going to, or Wire Shot 1 and 2, I should say. That is going to allow us to just increase the range of the Wire Shot. That's really it. We're just going to be able to grab stuff from farther away.
Alright, so here you may have noticed the Gold Angelo, the Alto Angelo. So, the Alto Angelos are basically the commander units for the Bianco Angelos. They have several formation attacks if they're with 2 or more Bianco Angelos. The one that we typically use in the speedrun is what we call the ball, where they launch a big orb of energy, and if you hit it at the right moment, you can reflect it back at them and kill all of them in an instant. But that's usually just if you're playing as Nero, or Dante, Virgil, or Trish. Lady has, like we said, she has the shotgun, so who needs balls when you have shotguns?
Yeah, like who needs to wait for that? I'm trying to go fast here, sir. Just need these twin sticks here. Lady's also the only character that doesn't have a skip here now. Wow, since they found one for Nero to skip these elevators. So we gotta go and use the key of Cronus that we just got to activate these interactable things that allow us to slow down time. That's why the colors are sort of washed out right now, and everything was moving way slow. Is because of the key of Cronus, which is this game's version of either the Bangle of Time from DMC1, or the Doppelganger from DMC3, or the Chrono Heart from DMC2. And like
Quicksilver, not Doppelganger.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah. I don't know why I said it.
Different style.
Different game. Different style, different game, basically. You know, it's all good. So you really just kind of use these interactable time stop posts to your advantage, just so that even though it staggers the spawns, it really just eliminates a lot of the erratic behavior these enemies have while you're fighting them. And then we're going to go and fight Agnes for the second time, but this time he's going to be in his Senor Fly form, where he's just a big old bug. And we're just going to try and jump cancel off of his body. Then we're going to jump behind him, and so when he pushes us back, messed that up a little bit.
So, as you may have noticed from the window fight, Agnes is very cowardly, so he actually likes to summon other enemies to help him fight. Here you can see he's summoning the gladioluses, the swords. In other fights against him, he'll sometimes summon cutlasses, or he'll summon a enemy you'll meet later, the basilisks, which are flaming dogs. Unfortunately, they are not good boys, but it doesn't really matter too much because Agnes is dead.
Yeah, it's like
For now.
some of these fights like do such a disservice to how complex some of these boss fights are, because Lady just shreds through most of them so quickly with the greatest of ease. Oh yeah, here's the Faust. If you want to explain the Faust coming up.
Oh, I do want to explain the Faust.
All right, go for it.
So the Faust is basically the big boss version of the Mephisto. They're bigger, have more health, they're a lot harder to knock down, and they have this amazing hat, which I'm sure anyone who has played Devil May Cry 5 is intimately familiar with.
Oh, the Faust hat.
It's the one hat that nearly destroyed Devil May Cry speedrunning. the single hat that divided a leaderboard and almost killed multiple categories.
I remember that. Oh man. And now we're back here dealing with them in DMC4. Can you imagine if they were as busted as their hat counterpart? Oh man. That would be something. Fortunately, we were able to dust them there. We're gonna run through here. This is actually the second time. This level here is actually the second time we're gonna fight Dante as a boss. He's gonna be a little bit more aggressive in this fight than he was on Mission 1. But if I fail to, and especially like if I fail to knock him over, you're gonna see that come into play. But hopefully not. Hopefully we're gonna be able to loop his knockdown again with the shotgun. Because the shotgun, for whatever reason, has so many active frames that I can fire it as he's getting up, and it will just, cancel out his invulnerability, basically. There's a little bit of like a dead zone here with this fight, so if you got much you want to say, any donations, anything, go for it, man.
Certainly. Well, I'd like to remind everybody that actually we got a couple of prizes available for this event donated by our wonderful sponsor HyperX. Just imagine you wake up in the morning and the right-hand side of your headset doesn't work anymore, much like me this morning. For two of our prizes, we have two wireless headsets, the Cloud Flight S and the Cloud X Flight, which are minimum donation bids of $25, as well as an RGB mousepad, which, hey, Cosmic, if you had an RGB mousepad, you'd be going way faster than this, and the Pulsefire Dart wireless mouse and a wireless PS4 headset, because you've got to have those RGBs. So if you get your donations in now, you can be in the running to get those awesome prizes.
Awesome. Sounds good,
All
man.
right.
Some good stuff. I do actually have an RGB mouse, but not a mouse pad.
I also have a colorful mouse. It's flashed in right next to me. It's going through all those pretty colors. It's actually kind of annoying when I'm trying to sleep, but...
That's why you just unplug it.
Yeah.
These guys, we're just going to take them out with a holy water. I mean, I don't really feel like dealing with these gold angelos, so we out here.
They just pop. Actually, I don't think we explained the holy waters. Probably should.
Yeah, probably should do that. Yeah, I don't think I explained. That's such a disservice to the holy water. What a glorious item. Go for it, time.
Alright, yeah, the holy water, it basically does damage to everything in the room. It's enough to kill most standard enemies instantly. For bosses, it just does a significant portion of their health. It decreases across difficulties. Yeah, it's also got iframes, which is always nice.
Yeah.
The holy water is a staple of the series. It's in every game to some extent.
Yeah, to some
Not
extent.
as much in DMC2, where it only appears as a random drop, the same way the orbs do. and in 5 where it only appears as a bonus if you use the red orb revival options when you die. But it's still there.
Yeah, it's always remained there. It was definitely at its most powerful, I think, in DMC1. When it was just so cheap and still had all the iframes and it just did so much damage in general. There's more of this. More of these guys. We're actually going to fight the leader of the Order of the Sword. Once these guys stop, no-clipping on me. And I should note as well for these guys in particular, you don't really want to like level 3 shotgun them because there's a lot of blowback on that. So you want to charge up to like level 1 or 2. I don't know why I'm taking so much punishment right now. Oh, he actually got powered up. That stinks. Alright. Alrighty. So, we're going to go through some more grappling sections, and then we're going to go through an Angelo fight, and then we'll be able to fight Sanctus. And Sanctus has a shield around him, and he also has 2 sort of grapple points that act as minions that float around him as well. And you want to destroy the shield and then chase after him and destroy his, like, I guess ascended state so that he drops down to the, this guy right here. He's something else, this Angelo. For some reason, the Angelo there prioritizes over the grapple points, so you have to knock him down or incapacitate him some way if you really want to get those grapple points consistent.
Yeah, it can be kind of frustrating at times. The only way to make sure he doesn't interfere with your grappling is if you kill him, but that's slow, so you kind of just gotta risk it for the biscuit, you know?
It's been a while since I heard that one. That's a good line. I need to use that more.
Hey, I'm Southern. I get to say it all I want.
Fair enough. So, going back to Sanctus, once you destroy his ascended state by taking down the 2 versions of his shields, which we're going to do here. Come on. I'm going to grapple him right here. Then we want to get him to the corner and just kind of shoot him into the corner so that he's not constantly traveling away from us. And we get the minimum amount of time between shots. And then as he's coming back up, I'm going to jump back at him and then use the burst attack to kill the shield again. By that time, I have charge shot level 3 again, and then I can get him to the second phase. Pretty clean fight so far. Unfortunately, I'm not Nero, so I can't hit that hand from the Savior to bring him out in his non-shielded state. That stinks.
Yeah, Sanctus has a nasty habit of running away. It's why our friend Technius likes to call him Old Man Runaway. I have another name for him, but I'm not allowed to say that one on the stream, so we're just gonna call him Old Man Runaway for now.
Tech has the best names for for bosses. He was actually the one that came up with Senor Fly for Agnes. That was a pretty decent fight. Took him down. Just pretty much a repeat of the first phase. And now we're actually going to go to Trish. And Trish, if you've played DMC1, is the demon that was created by Mundus to lure Dante to Mallet Island. But in this game, she's actually wielding the Sparta, and she's wielding... hold on one second here. I gotta remember what I'm buying here. So I'm going to buy... For Sparta, I'm going to buy V-Divider, which is going to allow us to pull some enemies to us. I'm going to buy High Voltage, which is a launch move. I'm going to buy Thunder Blow, which is her straight punch. I'm going to max out her ability to use the Pandora gun, which is a gun that Dante gets in this game. It's a suitcase that has 666 forms. Then we're going to max out all her general abilities: speed, get more orbs, enemy step, and air hike, which is the double jump for her. And then we're going to also buy a couple of holy waters here. And Trish wields the Dante, the Devil Sword Sparta. She wields Lucent Umbra, which are Sparta's guns. She also fights with her bare fists. And she will use Dante's gun that he gets in this game, like I mentioned earlier, the Pandora.
I suppose when you're a full demon, that your own fists do count as devil arms in a way.
Literally. The skip that can be done here, it's really only worth it on higher difficulties. It's kind of slow. You'll see a different version of it on Mission 16, but it requires traversing this level with use of the Pandora cannon and her lunar phase, which is like where she does a washing machine flip kick in the air. most of her is going to be using the Pandora Cannon and throwing the Sparta at enemies to use a move called Round Trip, which is what gives her access to her barehanded moveset. Trish is kind of unique in that she uses different Devil Arms, but she doesn't actually have to. Oh yeah, that's right here. I should probably explain what's going on here. Throwing Round Trip with these Red Orb crystals allows me to just get a ton of Red Orbs. So you see I got there like 70k Red Orbs from just that crystal. So doing Round Trip and then throwing Straight Punch at the Red Orb crystal just allows me to get a lot of Red Orbs, which we're going to use to purchase items such as the Holy Waters that we were getting earlier. And the Devil Stars we'll also use, so we have more access to Devil Trigger more freely. But like I was saying, Trish is kind of unique in that she has access to multiple Devil Arms, but she never needs to switch off of anything in order to get to any of it. She just pretty much has to do either like a double button input or throw the Sparta in order to access something different.
Quite interesting that you have a sword, and her most effective way of using the sword is to just throw it away and punch dudes. But you know, sometimes you like that in a woman.
Yeah, maybe. It's like Spike Spiegel says, man. Gotta love those strong women.
I know I do. That's why I run this category.
It's one of like only two, they're one of only two categories in the Devil May Cry series that actually feature female playable characters, which are, you know, Lucia from DMC2 and then these two. I actually forgot that I was supposed to do this here. Use the Holy Water. I'm so used to just fighting those guys that you can just Holy Water them, and then we're out of here.
Yeah, routing in extra Holy Waters in this part of the run is actually a fairly recent change that we've done.
Yep. And that's pretty much the end of the level. We're going to just do this nice little stylish jump kick down here, and that's about it. There's going to be a little bit of downtime coming up. I'm just going to kind of be running through the Forest of Ruins in like a sort of maze kind of way, fighting some enemies. If there's any sort of, you know, donations, shilling that needs to be done. I shouldn't say shilling, advertising.
Sure. Well, hopefully you're all enjoying Cosmic's awesome run. So I'd like to remind you that we are ESA Together. We are a week-long online marathon that will feature speedrunners and score attackers from all around the world. We invite everybody, be it ESA regulars or first-timers, showcasing their best for you. ESA Together is supporting ESA and our other affiliated events' increased costs this year connected with the coronavirus outbreak. By donating to ESA Together, you'll be supporting the future of ESA. All donations will go directly towards supporting the running of future events for you to enjoy. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Fruit. And make sure you all stay safe out there with that coronavirus stuff going on right now. It's no joke. Alright. So the Pandora Cannon is an extremely powerful version of Dante's Pandora Cannon. It does multiple hits and fires a very large hitbox in a straight line. And it's one of Trish's best forms of DPS. And she has to use 3 bars of Devil Trigger in order to use it. That's why you don't see me using it all the time, because I'm saving it, you know, for when I have a decent amount of Devil Trigger, so I can use it kind of like back to back, or in specific situations like those assaults there, where they all spawn in a line.
It's also worth pointing out that if you get hit while doing the attack, it will still knock you out of it, but it will also use up all the Devil Trigger it would have used. So, sanity isn't the only price to pay for power, so is Devil Trigger.
Oh man. I remember there was a couple runs that I did where like I fired up the Pandora Cannon, like a boss just immediately hit me out of it, and then I like double jumped to do it again, and I got hit out of it again. There was just, my entire Devil Trigger bar was just gone. It was just a crying shame. You might have noticed, by the way, that we're kind of running through the same areas that Lady was running through. That's because this game's level design, in the story, Dante has to go and close the Hellgate that's back at the plaza in Fortuna. So he has to go back from the Chapel of the Order of the Sword to sort of clean up the mess that Nero's made. And to do that, he has to traverse through all the areas that Nero did. And you know, that's what Trish has to do for Lady right now.
From a non-story perspective, the reason why we have to go through all the levels again in reverse order is because this game's development cycle is, let's just say, troubled.
Yeah, they were given only they were given a very small budget. It was the budget that they were given to do Devil May Cry 3, and in an unfortunate series of events, this was new hardware that they were working with, and they were expected to create the same level of game design in DMC4 as they were in DMC3. And so with that small budget, they really just wanted to hunker down on the mechanics, and they sort of put, this is what Itsuno said, even in an interview, Hideaki Itsuno, who was the director of this game, he said that the reason that you kind of backtrack through a lot of these areas is because they really wanted to focus on the mechanics of the game and make sure that the combat felt good for replayability. Oh yeah, mission 14. Do you want to take this one time?
Oh yes, let's talk about the faults.
The magical 4 starfish.
I've been told I have to talk positively about this, so the faults are a kind of environmental hazard as well as an enemy. They'll come up under you if you stand still for too long in certain areas, and they will swallow you up and take you to another fight, kind of like the chasm that we were above earlier. And it's a lot of time lost, because that will also reset the fight you were just in. So, see how Cosmic just killed these Mephistos? Yeah, if you got swallowed by the fault, you'd have to fight them again. There is ways to kill the faults, and once you kill them, they won't respawn. But, whew, they can be frustrating. This can be a big reset point for a lot of runs. So you really just have to keep your eye out and make sure you don't stand in one place for too long, which can be a bit of a problem for Trish because a lot of her moves have a lot of wind-up, as you can clearly see. It's not as much of a problem for, say, Dante or Virgil, but it's definitely something they have to keep an eye on as well.
There we go. It's almost worth it most of the time if you really want to just get through the level consistently to sort of scout out the faults and then do some of those dive kicks like I just did. But even then, there's no guarantee that it will really pay off in the end because they will come back to that area eventually. Alright, cool. This mission is super... I really have to focus here just to make sure that there's not one popping up right there. Okay. You can't. It's very, very hard to tell sometimes with the lighting in these areas and the lack of shadows on some things, just how bedazzled it all is. The faults tend to blend in.
Yeah, like we said, this was the next-gen hardware when they were making it, so yeah, they kind of went a little heavy on the bloom at some points.
Oh boy, jeez. This level does make for some pretty hype moments when you're on PB pace though, and it's oh yes, I finally pulled through.
This room is also pretty fun on Legendary Dark Knight because it's just the Chimera seeds, not the assaults or scarecrows, and they drop a ton of white orbs when you kill them. So it's just popping popcorn. It's quite satisfying just watching Trish just make little plantlings explode. It's quite satisfying.
We're gonna get another one of these orb crystals. We're gonna actually get a bunch of them throughout the run. In order to just sort of fuel the holy water hunger that Trish and Lady have in order to clear a lot of the late game stuff.
We have a thirst and it must be quenched.
And holy water's the only thing. Thank gosh, I got through that level. Man, I was really thinking that I was gonna get swallowed up at some point. It always happens. I can do a bunch of PB attempts, nothing happens, and then I do one no reset, bam, just fault swallows me. So thank goodness for that. This next enemy that we're gonna encounter here, I'm not even really sure it's worth explaining because it's just gonna get popped by a holy water. They're called the Blitz. They're sort of a lightning beast. They teleport around a lot to try and hit you, but they're kind of no consequence in the run because we just sort of just throw holy waters at them.
They're a bit more of a factor if you're playing something like New Game Plus, which doesn't allow item use, or you're playing something like Legendary Dark Knight, which is a... And blitzes appear a lot more in Legendary Dark Knight, because Legendary Dark Knight has altered enemy spawns.
Yeah.
Make them a lot more difficult. But, as you can see here, you just pop a Holy Water, and you pop the Blitz.
Yeah. And then, sort of same thing for this next room. This is where a lot of the run really starts to pick up on item use, just because Trish gets so many orbs compared to Lady. And in most cases with Lady, barring the final boss, it's more beneficial for her to just use her shotgun and just go itemless, because the damage from that is just so high. Whereas with Trish, you know, as Time said, a lot of her moves have this really, really long startup. And so it's very, very worth it for her to just use a Holy Water on a lot of things, or use the Pandora Cannon when she can, as opposed to trying to, you know, throw the round trip on everything and then punch it. Punch it. Let's see here. Oh yeah, the Mega Scarecrows. They're the final form of the Scarecrow enemies, or the final variant. They're just really, really big hitboxes. They have blades that can come down after you kill them. They've got a ton of health, but they're also a really huge hitbox, so... Let me see if I can get this correctly. Nope, didn't get it correctly. Alright, that's fine.
They're also not particularly aggressive. They get a lot more aggressive on, like, say, Dante Must Die, but on normal, they're pretty free. I'd say most of the time.
Yeah. They do allow you to build a ton of Devil Trigger off them, though, as well. Fortunately.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't have done that there, but that's fine. We're going to make it work. Ideally for this room, you want to have... This next room, you want to have full Devil Trigger. But you can kind of rock with 3, or 5, I should say. That's fine. Let's see what the health's looking like. Okay. If my health was kind of low, I was going to grab this green orb that's right here, but we're just going to run on by. In this mission, we're actually going to fight the second frog. Called Dagon, yeah. Called Dagon, who's, I guess, the brother of Baal. And I should note that when you go back and fight a lot of these enemies, even if they're called something different, they behave exactly the same as their counterpart that the other character fought. So a lot of the strats sort of just remain the same. You don't have to really account for any new phases or anything. Just figure out how to do the same thing with the other character.
They are slightly more aggressive in the second half of the game, but other than that, they are the same enemy.
I think that this section only has the one unique boss with the Savior.
Yeah, I think so.
Alright, here's another thing right here that we're gonna get. Another red orb crystal. You can just see those red orbs just building in the background there. Just so many of them. We also missed this with Lady earlier. The free holy water there. So we're just gonna grab it now, since it's pretty free for Trish. Trish doesn't have a skip for this section like Dante and Virgil do, so I just figured I would grab the orb crystal down there as well as the holy water there if Lady happens to miss it. This is just another fight with the Blitz as well. Just have to kill a few of these guys, and then the Blitz is going to show up, and we're gonna use the good old Super Soaker on him. Oopsie. Thought I was gonna be able to jump out of that. That's fine. At this point in the run, it doesn't really matter whether or not I take damage, so I thought that I had to hit a couple more times on the Blitz in order for him to die, but that's fine. So, Dagon, he started out with the Frost Breath, sort of like I wanted. I'm going to be able to dump a bunch of Pandora Cannons into him. Unfortunately, it didn't break his crystals on the top of his head, so I'm not going to get the face skip. But I'm going to be able to use a small Devil Star here. And then when the Succubi come out, I'm going to be able to pump a lot of damage into them with Devil Trigger. Ideally, you don't want to have to see these guys at all, or these women at all, but them's the breaks sometimes in a marathon run. And I should note that unlike Dante and Virgil, they have a glitch called Distortion where they can create 2 instances of damage with their Devil Trigger, but Trish cannot do this because her model doesn't actually change when she goes Devil Trigger. She only puts on some glasses, so you know that stinks for her.
To be fair, they are some pretty nice glasses.
Yeah, that's true. There we go. All right, cool. Lost a bit of time, but it's pretty okay. We're on pretty good time right now.
Precious time lost can't hurt me. These shades are Gucci.
That was, yeah, 99,000 orbs. Holy crap! What the heck? Here's the big big skip that Trish has. That's right. I have to get the hand sanitizer next mission. Yeah. Okay. It's called gas skip or Zenbu skip, as it was coined by the guy that found it, called One Sanitarium. And we're gonna skip like half the level now.
And this skip isn't exclusive to Trish. Dante and Virgil have versions of this as well. In fact, their versions are somewhat faster. Although Dante's definitely involves a lot more inputs.
There we go. Alright, sick. So basically what I did there was canceled the last hit of Trish's spinning kick move, or her lunar phase, into the Pandora rockets, which allow her to gain a little bit of height every time you do it. And this is also why I picked up that Vital Star with Lady, and why I'm picking up that other Vital Star there, is because that gas that was in that room can actually kill you, but it can take you down to 1 HP. So right now, that's right, I have to use it at the fight with the dogs if I'm playing hecka risky, which we're going to do anyway. So I just grabbed that Vital Star there because Trish takes a lot more damage from that gas than Dante or Virgil do. So she really can't afford to just run through the rest of this level with 1 HP, especially because we're going to go and fight Burial again. So we're going to use the small Vital Star there. We're going to use the Holy Water as well. And then we're just going to run by these dogs.
Of course, if you're playing this on New Game Plus, that is kind of a stressful moment, because even though you will have more health, because you can get all your health upgrades in New Game Plus, you can't use Vital Stars. You can't skip that fight with the Holy Water. So you will be fighting with low health. But I guess I should explain why we don't allow items in New Game Plus in this game.
Yeah, go for it.
Because, yeah, in Vanilla Devil May Cry 4, the leaderboards did allow super costumes and items for New Game Plus. The problem is that just meant that every single fight it boiled down to walking into a room and then using holy water until everything was dead. So it's not exactly the most intense strategy. So even though it's technically slower to play New Game Plus with no items, it's more fun to run that way.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, here's Burial again. The second to last of the recycled bosses. We're going to use another small Devil Star here. Oh, that was actually pretty good. Alright, cool. Now that he's stunned, after we use 2 of the Pandora cannons on him, I'm going to do 3 straight punches. And then we're going to jump on back. And then use another Pandora cannon. Yep, there we go. Cool. Oh boy. It didn't give me my round trip there, so we're going to try this again. Alright. Alright, he's down. Down goes the Fire Kitty, or Fire Pony as Mecha likes to call him. And that is mission 16. We're actually kind of coming into the home stretch of the run. It's been actually a pretty decent one. So, here we're actually going to load up on a lot of Holy Waters. Because from here on out, everybody's getting the juice. I menued a little bit too fast there. Alright, there we go. Excellent. Okay. Now we're rocking, how many are we rocking? Hold on.
That was 15.
15, yeah, okay. There's a lot of water that's getting tossed around. Trish
Gotta
must
quench
have
those thirsty boys.
yeah, Trish must have had the hookup with Aquafina or something. Allow her to get that many holy waters. And I'm really going to use that to take out not only some bosses later on with Lady, but really take care of a lot of problem waves or problem enemies that when I started like rerouting this category, I was like, there's so many holy waters that, potential here. So what can I really take out, or what do I really not have to deal with anymore in these later levels? And the big one was definitely these Angelos here, because although Trish really doesn't have to wait on the ball or anything, she can just holy water them there, and then you just don't have to do anything. These next couple of rooms as well, there's some very lengthy waves that I figured, okay, I'll just wait for these guys to spawn in, and then we're gonna jump and do holy water so there's no startup on it. And then boom. And then we're going to wait for the next wave to spawn. And then bam, holy water again. And then while that's going on, we're just going to do this while this last dude's coming in. He's going to probably get caught in the crossfire there, as you saw. Ideally, you take out both him and the orb crystal at the same time. So that was really good. So we got a little bit of extra orbs on top of taking out that last dude in the wave. Here we're going to activate the wave by going to that car. And then we got to kill 4 of these little scarecrows in order to activate all of the enemies of the current wave that we're going to nuke with a holy water as well. So there's the 3rd. And then here's the 4th. And then you're going to see them start spawning in. And say goodbye. And guess what? There's going to be some dogs that spawn in. Guess what's happening to them? Oh, yeah. They get the holy waters. You get a holy water. You get a holy water. Everybody gets a holy water. Excuse me, sir. Okay, thank you. I should note that if you don't wait the entire time for an enemy to spawn in and you use a holy water on it, it will have 1 HP. And that's what happened there. I hit the dog with the holy water as it was spawning in, so it had a 1 HP left. You might as well start explaining the Savior before we get into it in the next mission.
Oh yes, the Savior. It's a boss. It's actually not as hard as it seems from a speedrun perspective as you might think from your first playthrough. I know it took me a long time to beat him on my first playthrough, but he's actually got some pretty predictable cycles. So the Savior is a big, giant statue of the Order of the Swords God, who also happens to be Dante's father, but hey, that's story thing. We don't have to worry about story. You're skipping all the cutscenes. So, it's a big hill statue of God that flies around and punches you. And it has crystal weak points on its body, on its legs, arms, shoulders, and head. And you have to break each of those weak spots to activate its second phase, or you have to try and break its chest. It's a lot of platforming.
Oh yeah, for sure. Alright, here. We're just wrapping up Agnes here. Excuse me, sir. Well, I didn't mean to lock onto that dog at all. That was a little bit that was a little bit much for just that dog. Alright, here we go. Your strength will be mine. Here's the fish that I wanted to avoid. If you let the fight sort of get to this health threshold without blowing Agnes up, it becomes a little bit tedious. So I really kind of wanted to avoid that.
Yeah, Agnes has a lot of attacks that you can knock him out of during his startup, and he'll go down pretty easy. But if you don't knock him out of the startup in the very small window you have, oh, he gets some nasty armor frames.
Oh yeah, for sure. Here's the Savior coming up. So Trish does this a little bit differently than Dante, but I think she personally has a really easy time with him. I like her cycles a lot on the Savior when you actually kill it, because as you can see, the Savior doesn't actually start out with a health bar. As Ty mentioned, we have to actually destroy the crystals on its body before we can get to the next phase. So here we're just going to kind of wait on some attacks. We're going to get up on its arm here, and then blast away, with some Devil Triggered Lucent Umbra. They have a really, really good firing speed and a lot of damage that they do in Devil Trigger. So after we do that, we're going to use that cannon there to knock him down on his back, and then we're going to use the Pandora Cannon in order to destroy some more of these crystals. Here we're just going to use Lunar Phase. Come on up to this right here on the arm.
And I will say, trying to break these crystals is Dante using only Darkslayer without actually properly knowing how to use Darkslayer. Yeah, that'll take you maybe 30 minutes. Speaking from experience, cough cough. Yeah, this was a terrible time my first time through, and I'm really glad I've learned how to cycle it for the speedrun. Makes it so much faster, so much easier. It's actually pretty satisfying once you learn how to do it.
It's a very illuminating fight, like just how simple it is once you know it. Alright, here we go. So, I'm going to walk over here. I'm going to fire the Pandora Cannon at the crystal on its chest. I'm going to go ahead and just use another small Devil Star here. And then do this right here. Boom, it's going to knock him down. Boom, right there. Coming for him. And then we're just going to do another Holy Water there. The jump is just for style. Don't worry about it. And that's the Savior down. Ideally there I would have done a little bit more damage with the Pandora Cannon and then been able to just kill him with the Holy Water, but alas, I waited a little bit too long on the animation there. We're actually going to get to Lady as we wrap up the run here. There's only 2 missions left, so. Alrighty, here we go. Just go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, my bad.
Yeah, so here's the boss rush. It's a combination of the dice game, which we saw earlier before the window fight, and most of the bosses. We have to fight Burial, Dagon, Echidna, and Agnes, and a couple of Angelos that take the place as Credo, because, like I said, there's only a single Credo fight. We don't get to fight him again in the boss rush for some reason. Would have been fun, but
yeah, that would have been
I
nice.
guess it would have been too much work?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think it's because he just straight up dies in the story, as opposed to the other bosses. They just get sent back into the Hellgate, I believe.
Maybe.
Maybe. They should have given him a little bit more time. Oh yeah, now that we have, we're much stronger now against Burial than we were at the beginning of the game. So he's gonna get just decimated by this fully upgraded lady here, or fully upgraded shotgun. Yeah, he's down. See, he's gone in just a matter of seconds. And this is really what makes this Lady Trish category so good, is because they're so fast, is because their bosses are just so strong. Like their boss fights, they decimate these guys. And girl, if you're talking about Echidna.
Burial thought he was hot stuff right before he met Lady.
So here I want him to, swallow me. And then I'm going to actually use the Devil Star to be able to burst attack out of him.
I don't think we really properly explained that Devil Trigger is the easiest way to get out of grabs, but it is.
I think I touched on it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Bears repeating.
And that works for all of the characters, not just Lady.
It's just really only beneficial in the run as Lady, unfortunately. It'd be cool if there was other, sort of tank the hit strats like that, but.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Alright. I'm gonna jump on top of her here. And you can really see, just like I said, these characters just tear through the bosses, especially Lady on this last level. Especially with enemy step, just the ability to cancel the animations of the shotgun and just be able to do it over and over and over again with pretty much no consequence. Such a valuable asset to the run. And we're pretty much just wrapping up here. There's really only the final boss fight left. If there's one final message you want to get in through before it runs over.
Certainly, thank you very much. Well, you're all watching the awesome Devil May Cry 4 run by Cosmic. Coming up 2 runs after this is Steel Battalion run by Plywood. Now, during Steel Battalion, we're going to have a small bid war going on, where you can pick the voice acting, either Japanese or English. According to Plywood, the English voice acting is wonderfully corny, however the Japanese is run by $10. So if you want to change that and hear some corny, cheesy voice acting, then let's get those donations in for English.
Steel Battalion's the one that has that like really crazy controller, isn't it? I believe.
It
I've
is.
seen that controller. It's so weird.
That's probably a really cool run. So I think I'm gonna check that out. That's probably really cool. Shout outs to that person. For real. Alright, so here we go. Sanctus has been resurrected. And he's using the power of the Sparta. However, time, take it away. What are we gonna do to him?
Well, you remember how we bought all of that holy water? Well, Sanctus here, he looks a little thirsty. Maybe we should give him something to drink, you know?
Maybe. Maybe. Sounds like a good idea to me. Let's get it poppin'. Hold on. Sir, come back here.
The way Sanctus's fight works is he functions like this for the first about 3/4 of the fight, and then once he gets down to quarter health,
Time's
he gets
coming
into
up.
he gets into a phase where he swings around his sword, but we just don't have to deal with that. So
Time.
there we go.
What a boss fight! There's really just no time to talk about him. But that is Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition. New game Devil Hunter or new game normal difficulty with Lady and Trish. Thank you so much, ESA, for having me. Thank you, Time Thief, for co-commentary. Thank you, Froob, for the donation reading and the advertisements for the great organization of ESA. And I hope you guys get that funding that you need to put on more great events.
Yes, thank you for everyone who donated. Thank you for everyone in the chat, just everyone who watched. We're so glad to have had you. This was a wonderful time for a wonderful cause.
All right, so that's it from me. Yeah.